Hazrat Nooh, A.S., the Ark of Faith. There was a time when the world was not drowned in sin, when hearts were soft, when people remembered Allah without being reminded. A time when the earth was pure. But corruption never arrives like a storm. It begins like a whisper. Slow, silent, unnoticed. Generations before the flood, people were righteous. They worshipped Allah alone. Their lives were simple. Their hearts were clean. And among them were a few men. Men so pure, so devoted, that people loved them deeply. Their names would later become the reason of destruction. Wad, Suwa, Yagath, Ya'ak, Nasr. They were not gods. They were not divine. They were just, righteous servants of Allah. But when they died, something broke inside the people. Grief turned into attachment. And attachment slowly turned into something dangerous. Shaitan saw what they could not see. He whispered, "Make statues, so you remember them. Just symbols, nothing more." And the people agreed. They carved their faces, shaped their forms, placed them where they could be seen. At first, no one worshipped them. No one bowed. No one prayed. They were just reminders. But time changes everything. A generation passed. Then another. Then another. Knowledge faded. Truth became blurred. And Shaitan returned. This time, not with a suggestion, but with deception. These statues, they bring you closer to Allah. They are your intercessors. They hear you. They help you. And just like that, the first step into darkness was taken. People began to bow, to pray, to call upon stone. What was once a memory became an object of worship. And the sky remained silent until the command of Allah came. From among them, Allah chose a man. Not the richest, not the most powerful, but the most sincere. A man with a heart that refused to accept falsehood. A man who would carry the heaviest burden for the longest time. His name was Nooh. Hazrat Nooh, peace be upon him. He was not sent with an army. He was not given wealth. He was given something far greater. Truth. And with that truth, came a mission. A mission that would break hearts. A mission that would test patience. A mission that would last centuries. He stood before his people. People he knew. People he grew up with. People he loved. And he said, "O my people, worship Allah. You have no God except Him." Simple words. Clear message. But truth is heavy on hearts that love falsehood. They looked at him. And they laughed. "Who are you? You're just a man like us. If Allah wanted, He would have sent angels." Mockery. Rejection. Arrogance. But Nooh did not stop. He spoke again. And again. And again. Days turned into nights. Nights turned into years. Years turned into decades. But their hearts remained sealed. Whenever he called them, they turned away. Whenever he spoke truth, they mocked louder. They covered their ears, so they wouldn't hear. They wrapped themselves in their clothes, so they wouldn't see. Imagine. calling your own people, begging them to save themselves, and watching them walk away, every single time. But Nooh did not give up. He changed his way. If they didn't listen in public, he went to them in private. If they rejected softly, he called firmly. If they resisted, he became even more patient. He said, I called you openly. I called you secretly. I showed you every path. But you only ran further away. And the leaders, the powerful, the arrogant, they became afraid. Not of him, but of the truth he carried. Because truth threatens false power. They gathered the people and said, do not listen to Nooh. Do not leave your gods. Stay firm on Wad, Suwa, Yagath, Ya'uk, Nasr. And slowly, they turned the entire society against him. Now it wasn't just rejection. It was hatred. Insults. Threats. Stop, or we will stone you. Imagine standing alone against an entire nation. For years. For decades. For centuries. 950 years. 950 years. Of 950 years. Of pain. 950 years. Of hope. That maybe, just maybe, someone will listen. But very few did. The weak. The poor. The forgotten. They believed. But the powerful? They refused. Because accepting truth meant lowering themselves. And arrogance. Never bows. Years passed. His hair turned white. His body weakened. But his mission did not stop. He would stand at night, calling out in the darkness. He would walk in the day, searching for hearts that still had life. Every rejection was a wound. Every mockery was a scar. But he kept going. Because he wasn't calling for himself. He was calling for Allah. Until one day, after centuries of effort, after a lifetime of patience, a revelation came. A moment that would change everything. Allah said, no one will believe, except those who have already believed. Silence. Heavy. Painful. Final. That was it. No more hope for them. No more waiting. No more. Imagine giving your entire life for people, and then being told they will never change. That moment was not victory. It was heartbreak. And for the first time, Nooh didn't call his people. He turned to Allah. Not with anger, but with pain. Deep. Unbearable. Pain. My Lord, I am defeated. So help me. And with that, the next phase began. Not of calling, but of judgment. A storm was coming. Not just of water, but of truth. And the world was not ready. That had been made. The decision had been taken. After 950 years of calling. After a lifetime of pain. The chapter of mercy for that nation was closing. And now, the chapter of justice was about to begin. But Allah's plans, always unfold in ways that test the heart. There was no thunder yet. No flood. No sign in the sky. Instead, Allah gave a command, so strange, so unimaginable, that it became another test. Build the Arkansas. A ship. A massive ship. But look around. There was no ocean. No river. No water. Just dry land. Silent land. Endless land. And in the middle of that land, a prophet was told to build a ship. If you were there, what would you think? Even the believers must have wondered. But faith does not question Allah. Faith obeys. And so, Hazrat Nooh, A.S., began. Piece by piece. Wood by wood. He started building the Arkansas. Under the burning sun. With aged hands. A heart filled with certainty. And eyes that had seen centuries of rejection. Each strike of his tool echoed something deeper. Not just the building of a ship, but the beginning of the end. And as expected, the people came. Not to help, but to mock. They stood around him, laughing, pointing, ridiculing. Look at him. The one who claimed to be a prophet. Now building a ship in the desert. Their laughter grew louder. Their arrogance deeper. Where is the water, Nooh? Has the sky told you something we don't know? Mockery. Again. But this time, something had changed. Before, Nooh used to respond with patience, with softness. But now, the tone was different. Not anger, but certainty. He looked at them and said, "If you mock us today, we will mock you tomorrow, just as you mock." For the first time, there was a warning in his voice. Because now, the truth was no longer being offered. It was coming. And nothing could stop it. Days passed. The ark grew larger. Stronger. More real. And with every passing day, the laughter of the people slowly began to change. From amusement to discomfort. From jokes to unease. Because somewhere deep inside, even the arrogant hearts felt something. A fear they couldn't explain. But arrogance never allows fear to become belief. So they ignored it. They buried it. They continued their lives. As if nothing was coming. As if nothing would ever change. But the believers, they watched silently. Their numbers were small. Very small. But their faith was unshakable. They trusted. Even when things didn't make sense. Even when the world laughed at them. Because they knew. This was not just a ship. This was salvation. And finally, after days, weeks, maybe months, the ark was complete. A massive structure. Standing alone. In the middle of dry land. Silent. Waiting. For something. No one could yet see. Then came the moment. The sign. The one Allah had promised. When the oven overflows. It sounds simple. But its meaning was terrifying. One day, without warning, Water began to emerge. Not from the sky. Not from the sea. But from the ground. From places where water had never been seen before. From ovens. From cracks. From the earth itself. The land began to bleed water. And suddenly, the sky changed. Dark clouds gathered. The wind shifted. The air became heavy. And then, the first drop fell. Rain. But not ordinary rain. This was something else. The sky opened. As if gates had been unlocked. Water poured down. In a way the world had never seen. And at the same time, the earth responded. Water gushed out. From below. From everywhere. Above. Below. Surrounding everything. The flood had begun. Chaos spread. Panic. Fear. The same people, who once laughed, now looked around in shock. What is happening? This isn't normal. But it was too late. The command had come. Hazrat Nooh, A.S., stood before the Arkansas. And Allah's command echoed. Board it. Take with you, the believers. And pairs of every kind. And something miraculous happened. Animals came. From every direction. Pairs. Walking. Running. Flying. As if guided by an unseen force. Lions, beside goats. Birds, descending from the sky. Creatures that never gathered, now moved together. Silently. Obediently. Toward the Arkansas. The believers boarded. One by one. Their hearts filled with fear. But also, peace. Because they knew Allah was with them. And then, the ark closed. Outside, the storm intensified. Waves began to rise. Small at first. Then larger. Then terrifying. Mountains of water. Crashing. Destroying everything in their path. Homes. Fields. Entire lives. Washed away. And among that chaos, one scene. One moment. That would pierce the heart forever. Nooh saw someone. Someone close. Very close. His own son. Standing among the disbelievers. As water rose around him, Nooh called out. Not as a prophet, but as a father. My son, come with us. Do not stay with the disbelievers. Imagine that moment. A father calling his son, not for himself, but to save him. But the son looked back, not with faith, but with pride. I will go to a mountain. It will protect me from the water. Even now, he trusted creation over the Creator. Noah's voice trembled. There is no protection today, except from Allah. And then, before another word could be spoken, a wave rose between them. High, violent, merciless. And just like that, his son was gone, swallowed by the flood. Silence. Imagine the pain of a father watching his son disappear forever. Not because he couldn't save him, but because he chose not to be saved. This was not just a flood. This was truth. Separating hearts. Faith. From arrogance. And the ark began to move. Rising. Floating. Carrying the believers through a world that was drowning in its own disbelief. The storm had only just begun. The ark was no longer still. It moved. Slowly at first. Then carried by waves so that they looked like mountains rising from the earth itself. Inside, a small group of believers. Outside, a world disappearing. Water had swallowed everything. Homes. Villages. Generations. Memories. Everything that once stood with pride was now beneath the flood. And above it all, the ark floated. Not because of its strength, but because of Allah's command. Inside the ark, there was fear. How could there not be? The sky was roaring. Thunder tearing through the heavens. Waves crashing like giants. Darkness covering everything. But along with fear, there was something else. A strange peace. Because when everything else is taken away, and only Allah remains, the heart finds a calm that cannot be explained. Days passed. Or maybe weeks. Time itself seemed to disappear. There was no sunrise. No sunset. Only storm. Only water. Only survival. And somewhere in that storm, Hazrat Nooh, A.S. stood. Silent. Reflecting. A man who gave 950 years to save people who chose to drown. A father who called his son and watched him disappear. A prophet who completed his mission but carried the weight of loss in his heart. He did not celebrate. He did not feel victory. Because this was not a moment of triumph. It was a moment of truth. And truth is often heavy. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the command came. A command so powerful that the entire universe responded. O earth, swallow your water. And O sky, hold back your rain. And just like that, the storm stopped. The sky, which had been pouring endlessly, became silent. The earth, which had been bursting with water, began to calm. The waves, that once looked like mountains, started to fall. Slowly. Very slowly. The water began to recede. The ark descended. Until finally, it came to rest. On a mountain. A place of stillness. After unimaginable chaos. The flood had ended. But the silence that followed was heavier than the storm itself. Imagine stepping out into a world that no longer exists. No cities. No crowds. No noise. Just emptiness. The believers stepped onto the earth. Carefully. Quietly. As if afraid to disturb the silence. This was a new beginning. But it came after total destruction. And Hazrat Nooh, A.S. stood there. Looking at the horizon. A horizon that once held his people. Now held nothing. And in that moment, His heart remembered something. Not the nation. Not the mockery. But his son. That one moment. That one call. That one wave. And so, he turned to Allah. My Lord, my son was from my family. And your promise is true. It wasn't a complaint. It wasn't anger. It was a father's. Speaking through pain. And Allah replied. A reply that would become a lesson for all humanity. Until the end of time. Oh no, he is not from your family. His actions were not righteous. In that moment, a truth was made clear. Faith is not inherited. It is chosen. Blood cannot save you. Status cannot protect you. Only faith can carry you through the storm. And Hazrat Nooh, A.S. understood completely. He did not argue. He did not question. He lowered his head and said, My Lord, I seek refuge in you. And I ask forgiveness. Submission. Pure. Complete. Unquestioning. That is the of a true prophet. Then Allah gave the final command. O Nooh, descend with peace from us. And blessings upon you. And upon the generations that will come after you. Peace. After the storm. Mercy. After justice. Hope. After destruction. And so, life began again. From a small group. From those who believed. When belief was difficult. From those who stood firm. When the world stood against them. And this is not just a story. This is a mirror. For every generation. Because the world still follows the same path. Truth still feels heavy. Falsehood still feels easy. People still choose comfort over faith. And the voices of truth still stand alone. The story of Nooh, A.S. teaches us that success is not in numbers. 950 years. And only a few believed. Was that failure? No. Because success is not measured by results. It is measured by obedience. It teaches us that patience is not waiting for days or months, but standing firm. For years. For decades. For a lifetime. It teaches us that even the closest relationships mean nothing without faith. And most importantly, it teaches us that when Allah's command comes, nothing can stop it. No mountain. No power. No plan. Nothing. Only those who trust Him will survive. The Ark of Nooh was not just made of wood. It was built with patience, with tears, with faith. And today, the storm may not be water, but it exists in distractions, in desires, in doubts, in a world pulling you away from Allah. So the question is, when your storm comes, will you be inside the ark or outside it? Because the ark still exists. It is called faith. And only those who hold on to it will reach safety. This is the legacy of Hazrat Nooh, A.S. A legacy not of a flood, but of unbreakable faith. May Allah make us among those who listen before it is too late. Ameen.